If the Orthodox believed in the writings of the early church fathers, they would be pre-mill.
That's true, David. First 300 years, Justin Martyr, Irenaeus.
Let's listen to his argument, and then we can respond to it.
Many of the fathers of the church were pre-mill. They believed that Christ would return and establish a millennial kingdom on the earth. And Irenaeus talked about the earth becoming a paradise, and food and fruit would be in abundance. And until the conversion of Constantine, that shifted into more of an amillennial view, that the kingdom, the millennium, is the church age. And so we could actually track the evolution of this view that you go from classical pre-mill to amill, with Constantine, and then Augustine was a huge contributing father in this area. And then later on, you get this post-millennialism. The dispensations come along, and they create a premillennialism where you have Israel in the church and so on. But what this person has noted there, he's absolutely correct. The earliest fathers, Papias and Irenaeus and Justin Martyr, these guys were full-blown premillennialists.
Go ahead, Father. I know you want to respond to that.
Oh, man. I didn't know we were going to get these level of comedy stylings. Yeah. First of all, Papias was a full-blown premill. We only have Papias in fragments. Like, we do not have any of his works. We have fragments of his works as quoted in Eusebius. Right? So we don't know Papias' full views on anything. So that's a red flag when anyone is confidently talking to you about Papias' views. But St. Irenaeus, I mean, I did a thing on this on Lord of Spirits. First of all, the question is whether or not he was a Chiliast. Okay, Chiliasm and premillennialism are not the same thing. Okay, and also, if Tony Costa is a premillennialist, he's even less reformed than I thought he was. Like, I don't know where he gets off calling himself reformed if he's both a Baptist. So he doesn't accept reformed ecclesiology, sacramentology, or eschatology now. Like, I don't. He believes in tulip, I guess. I don't know. So Chiliasm, which was the actual teaching of the early church, which was condemned as a heresy, specifically the Pontic heresy, because it was very common around Pontus, and because the Montanus himself was sort of a renowned Chiliast. The fact that Chiliasm was seen as a heresy in the ancient church is what kept the book of Revelation out of the canon for so long, because people thought it was teaching Chiliasm. So Chiliasm was the view that Christ was going to return to earth and create a paradise of earthly delights for Christians to enjoy, right? Like Muslim heaven, right?
Yeah.
Like when I say paradise of earthly delights, I mean,
Yeah.
like
You want to play Minecraft with the prophet.
Like, yes, like you're not allowed to drink now.
Right.
You're going to be wasted out of your mind partying for 1,000 years. Okay. That's what the Chiliast taught. Okay. Now, there's a particular section of St. Irenaeus against heresies that gets cited to claim that he was a Chiliast. This is what I went through on Lord of Spirits at one point. We went through the passage in detail. You can look that up if you want all the detail. I won't do all the detail here. But basically, he's quoting a bunch of Second Temple Jewish texts that folks like Tony, who have just read it in Schaff and aren't familiar with the literature, don't realize. To talk about the Messianic age. This is not literally that. It's not St. Irenaeus making literal statements about eschatology. It's St. Irenaeus quoting texts, one of which is the Book of Enoch, that's about the Messianic age, right? But the reason I was literally laughing is that's not premillennialism. Like Chiliasm, no premillennialist that I know of. I'm sure there's some kook out there somewhere, but no premillennialist I know among Baptists thinks that the millennial kingdom is some kind of paradise of earthly delights.
Right.
You know, where you're partying and celebrating all the time and drinking gallons of alcoholic wine.
Whoa.
Right.
Wow.
and feasting sumptuously, on meats and all of this, right? I don't know any premillennialists who believe in that. So
Right.
there's not even a question that St. Irenaeus was not a premillennialist, right? The question is, was he a Chiliast?
Yes.
And I and all of the later church fathers argue no.
And what does Josiah do? Is he brings reformation. So after the discovery of God's word, there is this the common way to conduct initiatory ceremonies for children. Then certain Tertullian would not have made that remark about what is this strange practice where they're baptizing their own children. This is something he says.
Did you want to chime in now or wait until he finishes the?
Well, this is where somebody brings up infant baptism, and David was just sitting there nodding. I'm like, as he's sitting there saying Tertullian proves that infant baptism is not apostolic.
Right. Yeah.
That's
what a
Tony
ridiculous
Costa's
argument. What
a
a
comment
ridiculous
from Tertullian proves that, like, I have a whole bunch of Presbyterians who'd like to speak with you, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And a whole bunch of Lutherans and a whole bunch of, right? Because he was just in that. He was just going to compare Josiah to Luther, right? Well, Luther would like to have a discussion with you about whether Tertullian proves anything about infant baptism. Tertullian was a Montanist, so he was a premillennialist, like Tony Costa. But actually, he wasn't. He was a Chiliast. But again, the whole point of us saying Tertullian is a heretic is saying he taught against the apostolic faith. So why would you use his comment, right, to try to prove what the apostolic faith is? You know what Montanism taught? Tertullian accepted the idea that Montanus, this human who claimed that he was a prophet, was the comforter, was the paraclete promised by Christ, not the Holy Spirit, Montanus. Okay, so this is like Joseph Smith, 1600 years before Joseph Smith.
Right. Okay. Yes.
So him citing Tertullian would be like if he was debating a Muslim and the Muslim cited a Christian who had apostatized and become a Mormon. Right? Or, as Muslims commonly do, if they were to cite Bart Ehrman, right, a former Christian who apostatized in terms of what Christians believe, right? He would not accept that. So why should we accept him quoting Tertullian of all people? And if you want more on infant baptism, I just saw Barrel Age Faith. Cashin did a video like last night about infant baptism and infant communion. Going back into the 2nd century before Tertullian. So,
well, another interesting piece about Tertullian is he was saying in his works on baptism, he makes like the argument that any like major sin you commit after baptism sends you straight to hell. So that's why he wants to delay it. There was a quote from
clearly
him.
That's what the apostles taught, because Tertullian says it.
Right. Whoops. All right, Tony. Well, I guess but according to Tony Costa, that would be rejecting, So he's just appealing to apostates, according to him.
Another place in the video, he's going to say that. Well, he's already said he's going to say St. Irenaeus got something wrong. He said this was apostolic, and it's not. It's like, well, wait a minute. Tertullian said something was apostolic, and you agree with him, but the guy who's a saint got it wrong. Okay.
Exactly.
That was unknown to the Lord and the apostles. And so what that tells us is that the practice of infant baptism began late, not from the time of Christ. Of course, our Eastern Orthodox friends will disagree with that.
How would you respond to Costa mentioned that Elijah was appointed by God and thus cannot trust institutions and appointed lines? Paul Vanderklay made a similar argument, so I was curious about that. Thanks.
So they're arguing that, well, that's a dumb argument. Prophethood in Israel was passed down by the laying on of hands.
Right.
Starting with Moses and Joshua in the book of Numbers. Like, Elijah came from a community of prophets who laid hands on him. Like, there's a whole city of prophets in Saul's day. This is not reading the Bible carefully. Right? right? Where does Elisha go after Elijah goes into heaven? He goes back to the community of the prophets, right? The prophetic line. This was passed down through the laying on, specifically through the laying on of hands, and they had a chain. They had the names of the prophet going from Moses up through who had passed the authority down. The authority being smikah in Hebrew. This is where we get the idea of apostolic succession. So he's like literally trying to refute apostolic succession by means of a perfect example of apostolic succession in Scripture. So yeah, that's a faceplant.
Yeah, bad argument. Gregory says, it seems like Protestant restorationists are arguing the further you get from the original church, the closer you get to the original church. Lunacy.
Yeah, and the Protestant reformers were not arguing that. And
right.
that's part of why. So Tony Costa is trying to be, well, he's trying to be Reformed and a Baptist at the same time. Right? And so he's got two radically different competing ecclesiologies going on. The Baptist ecclesiology is essentially restorationist.
Right.
Because he's got to say everybody was baptizing babies for minimally 1,000 years. Right? Which, think about that for a second. Tony Costa believes not a single human being was validly baptized for 1,000 years.
Yeah. Insane.
Not a single one. You don't get more restorationists than that, right? Baptism was restored by a bunch of followers of Zwingli who went rogue, right? So you have to be a restorationist to be a Baptist, okay? But at the same time, you look at the magisterial reformers like Calvin and Luther, they were not restorationists. They were adamantly not restorationists. They saw themselves in continuity, right, with the early church. Lutherans still, if you get a good Lutheran, I think Cooper is capable of making this argument. He's just really wishy-washy on streams and stuff. But if he was feeling his oats one day, right, Lutherans will come out and argue they are the real inheritors of the Western Church. If you want to see Western Christianity in its true form, it's Lutheranism. Right? They will make that full-throated, right? And that it was Roman Catholicism that deviated, right, from them. So he's trying to have it both ways, right? It's basically restorationist, but then when there happens to be a church father who agrees with him, well, we'll pluck him out, right? We'll pluck him out, and then, well, all the places where he disagrees with me, he's part of that apostate church, but these few places where he agrees with me, right, I'll keep it. And that's, I mean, Gavin Ortland's a quote-unquote Reformed Baptist too, as far as I can tell. You know, he does the same thing, you notice. Right?
Yeah.
And this is really this fundamentally, you can't be a Reformed Baptist. They're fundamentally incompatible.
So Redeemed Zoomer, you hear that? You're correct on that issue.
Does he say that? No, I'll say yes. If he goes around telling them they're not really...
Yes, he says
Reformed,
that all the time.
He is absolutely correct about that.
To David's credit, and not sure if he was serious, but he did say he'd consider converting to Orthodox when Ridvan joined later. There you go. Well, pray for David.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's a good faith actor in this. I just think he's feeling defensive and backed into a corner right now.
Yes.
Which isn't an ideal situation to sort of evaluate these things.
Right.
Orthodox is a simulacrum. Not sure what that is. Are you familiar with the book, The Trail of Blood? Is it credible? You familiar with that?
I've heard of it, but I can't really make a comment on it because I haven't read it. So it'd be unfair for me to comment on it. I have not read it.
Arguing for it earlier with the whole faithful remnant thing, but
yeah. Well, at least he didn't start naming them by name. Like, who is that Reformed preacher that was like, we have every like heretic that's blood has been shed. We trace our roots through them. The Nestorians, the whatever, like the Montanists.
The Montanists are in the Trail of Blood, and he's a big fan of Tertullian with the whole baptism thing. So maybe
it's your guy.
Maybe you like it. Montanus also, in addition to claiming to be the Paraclete promised by Christ, as opposed to the Holy Spirit, also traveled around with two female prophetesses who he lived with,
Yeah.
who would frequently have seizures and
Yeah, they were the pre-Pentecostal
yeah,
Pentecostal.
well, yeah, that's exactly it. It said how modern charismatics try to use that to say they're part of the ancient church. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
That's where you're gonna go. Okay.
I like the excerpt from the Pelican where he's talking about the Montanists, and he's like, yeah, they people like witnesses to the Montanists would certainly affirm that this was something spiritual going on when they have a seizure. They just thought it was from the devil.
Exactly. Demons are spirits also. Yeah.
Yeah, something spiritual is going on. It's not a good one.
I was raised in a home church. It reminded me of the church at Corinth, and that is not a boast.
Yeah, the church was pretty messy. The Church of Corinth, you got a guy sleeping with his stepmother in 1 Corinthians 5.
What was going on there?
Yeah.
People sleeping with their mother-in-laws? What was...
You got a divided church saying, I belong to Peter, I belong to Apollo, I belong to Paul, etc. And then they're drunk at the Lord's Supper. They're being judged by the Lord for misappropriating the Lord's Supper. And then you got guys denying the resurrection in chapter 15. So yeah, the church is from the beginning has been a mess, and she still is a mess today.
But it is interesting if you say, hey, look,
where's this mess?
Yeah, exactly. These guys are fans of the Bereans. I mean, where can you find that church today?
Yeah. And all of St. Paul's work was a failure. All of the Holy Spirit's work in the church is a failure. Christ establishing his church basically failed. Because again, it's just as bad as the old covenant. There's no change, You've
got a little home church that's messed up. Show us an early church that's like that. Well, Church of Corinth.
Yeah,
you got the continuity there, Rubicon. You got the continuity.
Yeah.
You got the apostolic continuity.
David Koresh was about not the Church of Corinth. David Koresh could point at the Church of Corinth and say, we're like that.
Yeah.
That's what's the point there? That's like
affirming core beliefs to Andrew Wilson. 5 solas or penal substitutionary atonement. You don't need to an expert, but no opinion makes you look unqualified with respect. Yeah, I mean, even so if you know what the background here is, Andrew, I was on another live stream, and Andrew called over and he's like, do you affirm the 5 solas? And I go, no. And the reason there is, I mean, I don't deny them. I would regard that as like default positions. But if you wanted to show me that I'm supposed to follow some tradition, and you can make a case from that, and that would have to look like, a case from the Bible that I'm supposed to follow the tradition of, some future, I'd be open to it. So that's what I mean. I don't want to, and I haven't looked into your guys' cases for these kinds of things. So I don't know why it's bad that I say, if you guys have a case, I'm open to it.
And PSA, David, of course, stands for penal substitutionary atonement. This is interesting because, in the middle of the 20th century, there are all these liberal Protestant scholars attacking it. These orthopearls would be in line with these liberal Protestant guys who are basically attacking it and calling it cosmic child abuse and so on. But here's the irony. Augustine taught it, and so did John Chrysostom and Gregory of Nazianzus, 2 fathers of the East that are highly regarded in the Eastern Orthodox Church. They taught penal substitutionary atonement. And this is where I find it ironic. They attack this doctrine that they're...
That's absurd, dude.
Yeah, citation needed. St. Gregory the Theologian literally taught against it. He literally said that Christ did not pay a price to the Father.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not just anti-PSA. That's anti, 4 other.
Right. Yes.
Like, this is just preposterous. Now, there is, I don't know if I should tantalize people with this, but if I were going to be devil's advocate and try to defend PSA in St. John Chrysostom, there is a passage you could kind of sideways do it from. The Latinizers never quote it.
Yeah.
You know why? Because it doesn't use any of the keywords that they search for when they're quote mining.
Yep, exactly.
They would have to find it by actually reading St. John Chrysostom, which they don't do, which is one of the proofs that they're quote mining. And so, of course, I'm not going to bring it up to them. And it's actually, if you understand, it's not teaching PSA, right? Mm-hmm. But on the surface, right, if a Protestant wanted to do that, they could. But so I don't know how much more Tony Costa is going to say here. I don't know if he doesn't understand what penal substitutionary atonement is. or if he just doesn't
making stuff up.
understand what these fathers are saying, or even if he has any particular quotes in mind, or if he just saw somewhere like, oh yeah, I saw somewhere someone said that they supported PSA. You know, I mean,
He's copying Shuping. Shuping made the same exact argument word for word and used the same fathers.
Oh well, there you go. He's just quoting.
I think he's just quoting Shuping. By the way,
magisterial teachings.
Cheap plug. This Thursday, the 21st, Father Joseph Lucas is going to come on the show to debunk PSA. So we'll be doing a whole stream on that Thursday. So if you're interested in that subject, Father Joseph Lucas swinging by the show. We're going to talk about that. So
our own fathers believed in and taught. And so when the Protestants spoke about how Christ bore the wrath of God and that he received the wrath of God on our behalf, they say, you guys, you're following pagan ideas. This is what the pagans believed in. No, that's not only biblical. Your own church fathers affirmed it. And that's where the Protestants got it from. The Reformers got it from Chrysostom and Gregory of Nazianzus. And so I think a lot of these orthodox, I think what happens, David, is...
Why didn't they say that?
Yeah, exactly.
John Calvin, the second most quoted church father in John Calvin's writings. Number one is St. Augustine, as you'd expect. Right? Number two is St. Gregory the Theologian, St. Gregory Nazianzus. He doesn't quote St. Gregory Nazianzus in favor of his view of PSA. Right? Because he's denying he's see, again, this is he doesn't know what PSA is. Okay, so PSA, Calvin's PSA, the Reformers' PSA, which is what he, as a supposedly Reformed person, would believe in, right, is based in Calvin's denial of the descens ad inferos, the harrowing of Hades, Christ's descent into Hades. Okay. That Christ experienced the wrath of God, of an eternal hell, separation from God on the cross. He did not descend into Hades. Okay. That's the context in which Calvin formulates this doctrine. You're going to tell me St. John Chrysostom didn't believe in the harrowing of Hades?
Right.
You're going to tell me St. Gregory the Theologian didn't believe in the harrowing of Hades? See, the problem is, I would say the problem is that Tony Costa doesn't know his own system, but he doesn't have his own system. He has pieces of a Baptist system and of a Calvinist system, and he has all this smushed together, and it doesn't actually work together. Right? And so he hops about between the two, right? Like between the two ecclesiologies and the two views of the covenant and the two views of eschatology and the two views of, and now the different views of atonement. He just hops back and forth, and there's no internal consistency.
Yeah, well, there's no internal consistency within, Reformed baptism anyway. Because I mean, you look at a church like Gavin Ortland is a Reformed Baptist. He believes completely different things than Tony Costa does. Yeah, he doesn't make any of the same claims about the Orthodox or the Roman Catholics. He will optionally baptize infants. I mean,
or James White,
another
Reformed Baptist who's prominent, right? Because all they have in common is that they've taken Reformed and Baptist and smushed them together, right? Yeah. And which parts of their thinking they get from Reformed and which parts from Baptist will vary.
There you go. Bush Concept says everyone needs to spam David Wood's channel to react to this live stream. So true. That would be interesting.
I don't know how effective that'll be. He'll probably just say you're harassing him. But
yeah, he'll say I'm mean. He'll say I'm a big meanie. He'll say I'm the devil, like JP says. I'm like a minor imp, level 1 imp. I drop little beads when you slay me in RuneScape. The prot guy used the typical Irenaeus said Jesus was 50 hand wave and ignored the context that shows St. Irenaeus was actual point of proving Christ was between 30 and 40. David ignored it. I called him out.
Yeah, that's an old chestnut. He got that from Hank Hanegraaff before Hank Hanegraaff converted. And it's based on not knowing several things. Number one, not knowing that there weren't numerals in Greek, and so numbers get flipped around all the time. This is true in the Bible. Like different manuscripts will have different numbers anytime there's numbers. That's why you get this 70, 72 thing, and right, like 666 versus 616, and like because they don't have numerals, so they're using letters, right, to try to record numbers. So it's not a good system. Number two, not taking into account that we only have a handful of manuscripts of St. Irenaeus works, so we have no text critical way. He's not doing any text criticism to see if even that number 50 is original. And number three, and most importantly, our whole argument, as the super chat said, that St. Irenaeus is making, is that Christ passed through all the stages of life, including mature adulthood, which began at 30. Right? Because it's part of his recapitulation view of atonement, right? So they're just plucking this thing completely out of context, ignoring any textual issues and textual criticism to try to say, aha, here is a detail that St. Irenaeus may have gotten wrong. Therefore, all apostolic tradition is invalid. That's really the argument they're making.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I mean, it's on par with the rest of the arguments he's made this entire stream, though. You know, appealing to Tertullian on baptism. I mean, it's the same thing.
He can't have been wrong. He can't have been wrong.
Right. Yeah. Tertullian was infallible, obviously. This means Tony Costa, your next church service, you need to have 2 women prophetesses offering up communion, because that's what they did in the Montanist church. They write about this. They do like weird sacrilegious rites around their quote unquote Eucharist. I mean, so I guess you guys are doing that now too.